Well, hi, everyone. I'm Colleen Benelli, and this is our Reiki Lifestyle podcast here with Danny Smith.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here.
And this is also our live Q&A. Well, I guess recorded, but we have, what do we have here? About 37 people here today. So we hold these podcasts once a month so that we can just talk about all the different things that people in our community want to talk about. So people are here live, and we always talk about our divinely ordered circle. And so there are those who are here live, and then also those of you listening later. So we're glad you're here. I think I just have one or two announcements. Our normal, stuff. Everything is under Reiki Lifestyle, social media. We do have our YouTube and podcast, of course, all the time. We have upcoming classes, Reiki 1 and 2 and Master in April, and then Animal Reiki 1 and 2 and Master in May. Those are all online, and you can find everything on reikilifestyle.com. Probably the other important announcement to make always is that we have our weekly distance Reiki share, and those are free and they're open to everyone. And you can join late, you can leave early, you can come when you can and not when you can't. And we make it very easy for you to participate. And a lot of people even like to just leave their video off and just be able to listen. Oh, I know. The other one I should mention is that I will be teaching with William Rand in Japan on Mount Karama the end of October, beginning of November. And you can find that information on reiki.org. So we just got that posted, all the information with it. You're also welcome to send me an email, Colleen@reikilifestyle.com. So go ahead and close your eyes. Take some deep breaths. Place your hands comfortably on your body and open your heart and receive. Breathe deeply now as the light travels in on your breath. The gift of love fills your heart, your body, your mind. Place your hands comfortably where you're guided. Take this time to let go of all the things you need to think about later and all the things you needed to think about this morning to arrive here today. Give yourself this time to be about you and for you. As we join together in community and through all the ways of our lives throughout the world, around the earth, we all care deeply about contributing wellness in our own lives, our loved ones, our communities, the people, the animals, and the earth itself. Open your heart and receive the light of Reiki as it travels in on your breath and fills your body with the power of love, revealing the power of love at the core of your being. It's what your light and your spirit is made of, your body, the earth. It's all made with the power of love, and this is who you are. And it wakes up as you breathe in the light and the life force of this energy. It wakes it up within you and all of your systems, through your body, your auric field, going into the earth, reaching into the heavens, unified right here within you, your higher mind, higher consciousness, and the beauty of your pure heart. And as you breathe in, the light of the divine earth travels through your breath and through your body, rising through your earth star below you and upward through your root chakra and your central channel, going all the way up through each of your chakras, filling each one with the colors of creation, colors of the earth. Breathe deeply and receive as the light travels upward and all the way through the top of your head, your crown chakra, and your soul star above you. And receiving the light from all around you and the wisdom of the earth and the four winds and the teachings of the ancients. The knowledge that you bring with you here, waking up in your soul, your spirit. Your human nature and your divine nature are one nature, and they unify within you. And you breathe in the great tree of life. And remember that your body is made of the earth. As your roots grow deeply into the earth and you are in communion with the earth, receiving of the earth and the nourishment and the stability of your roots growing all the way around you. And as your branches reach to the heaven and receive of the four winds and the ancient knowledge and wisdom of those who came before, and the ancient knowledge and wisdom carried on the earth in the stones and the waters and the trees and the plants, the animals, the people, and your branches reaching to the heavens and receiving of the knowledge and wisdom, your gifts and talents of your spirit, your infinite self. And that spark of light and the power of love became the light, and the light became conscious. And the love and the light and the consciousness became individual and unique, and you became self-aware. Your spirit, your God spark is right here within you. And it shines through your heart light in front of you and behind you and on each side, above you, below you, and within you. And divine compassion fills your breath and flows into your body. Zonar, Halu, Hearth, Brahma, Nosa, Yava, Shanti, Kriya. Your spirit ignites and you remember now. And your light becomes visible to you. And your perceptions expand all around you to the beautiful beings of the light that are also here with you, your enlightened ones of your heart, your sacred and beloved ones that you are in relationship with are here with you. And it's a beautiful gathering. The divine animal kingdom is here and the spirit of the earth. The angels and the archangels, the ascended masters, our brothers and sisters in the light. And we join them here in this great gathering and see that our light is as beautiful as theirs. And you remember now you belong here in your body at this time on your soul's journey, in your soul's history. This is where you are. Your human nature is extraordinary. The power of love in your human spirit is revealed. Your authentic intellect, imagination, intuition, your inner truth and inner authority revealed right here within you. As each of the cells in your body, your DNA, all wakes up with your gifts, your talents, your capabilities, your inner knowing, and it wakes up with peace as you become visible to you, and you can see yourself now here in the beauty of your light. And as you see your own divine light, you see it in everything else around you. And the earth around you wakes up in all its beauty and glory. A vitality. Some of us here are beginning the new beginnings of springtime. And some of us here are settling in the beginning of autumn. And so we just breathe deeply now and receive. And when you listen, you can hear the heartbeat of the earth beating in the same rhythm as your own heart. And you lift your consciousness to the heartbeat of creation as you align with the earth and the moon and the stars and the planets. And the heartbeat of creation beating in the same rhythm as your own heart. And the same rhythm as the heartbeat of the earth. And you're here and present right now. Your beauty revealed. Look inside and say thank you to you now. And we say thank you to each other. Our circle is always divinely ordered, and we were all meant to be here, those who are here live and those who listen later, in this beautiful community. People who care deeply, love deeply, contributing to the wellness here in the world. Peace and love. Thank you to the enlightened ones that join us and help us remember who we truly are. And thank you to those teachers who came before us to bring us these ways as those ancient ones calling to the divine in the heaven, the divine in the earth, and the divine within, to live lives of love and well-being and thriving. And we say thank you to the descendants who come after us as we are here today, those inviting the divine in the heavens and the divine in the earth and the divine within to live lives of well-being, love, and thriving, contributing to the wellness for the earth, the animals, the people. Thank you. And so it is.
You're good. Are you ready for your first question?
Yep.
All right, let me go to my other screen. Hold on a minute. So Patty is asking, I have been watching the energy of the journeys for a long time. Reiki removes layers and healing connections and desolate places of the soul. Always wondering how you, our energy, is working on the soul retrieval. Recently, in a Reiki share, you channeled specifically to retrieve soul parts and help me integrate. Can you explain the process, discovering the authentic true self and the needing of a soul retrieval? It seems so sacred. Do we need training, or can we do it in self-healing way?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that in a couple of different ways. First of all, gosh. So there are many different spiritual energies that heal at spiritual levels in a person. And there are many different techniques that people use to access those energies that do this work. So soul retrieval itself is a shamanic term. It was developed by Sandra Ingerman, really back in the 1990s, and taught with very specific techniques in how one does a soul retrieval. And so, yes, there is specific training for that. I've had significant training in that style of soul retrieval. When Holy Fire Reiki came in 2014, I knew that I needed to know more about it, and I needed to know what the energy was, why it was, like why was it any different than what I was already doing with the Reiki energies that I had currently, and then also with all of the shamanic work, because I equally have been working in shamanic traditions as Reiki traditions. So part of that training is to focus on the energies for a while to get to understand them, to see how they work. I would say that by the time I received Holy Fire Reiki, I had probably done anywhere maybe 3,500 to 5,000-ish soul retrievals in my practice, because I've been full-time for a very long time. And using the training that I received, and also always including Reiki energy as a complementary energy to use that technique that we call soul retrieval. And there are specific ways that works. And yes, it's a training. So when I started working with Holy Fire Reiki, I noticed there were differences in the way that the energy itself was presenting, and also the techniques that I was learning from the energy itself, and how it was doing the same kind of work that would have those results. And a lot of people called it soul retrieval. For me, I did not feel comfortable calling it soul retrieval because of the training that I had. It was really a very different way that the energy was doing the work. The techniques were coming out differently. And so to me, to honor the integrity of soul retrieval and the tradition of it and the techniques of it, I kept asking the Reiki energy how it was doing what it was doing and how it was achieving those same results. Because it was clearly showing up that the energy worked differently. The Reiki energy actually works differently. It also complements, and I'm not at all hierarchical or saying better than. I'm just saying in my own personal development with Reiki and understanding the energy of it, I needed to know specifically how is it doing the same work. How is it achieving those same results? How is it different, and why? Why is it different? So it started showing me. And in each of my sessions, I would just say, show me how you do this. And then I'd wait for the energy to reveal the ways that it was showing up. And that is specifically because of the skill and the training that I had, that I feel I was able to get out of the way enough to ask that question and let the energy teach me. So again, taking out any kind of idea of better than. For me, what I found is that I really like the way the energy of Reiki does this same work to achieve those results of wholeness. The different modalities are all there to bring us to wholeness. And the understanding that it's our divine right to be whole. And these energies that hide us from our own view, whether they are fragmented pieces of our soul or whether they are layers that hide us from our own view, the injuries that we sustain have no right to have power over us or to occupy our wholeness. So the Reiki energy itself operates with divine compassion, and it has the authority of the energy of that power of love. And, we know there's a core energy at all of existence. In metaphysics, we call that love, or maybe I call it love. So that's that core energy. And so what Reiki showed is that the way it does the healing is that it reveals your wholeness within you that is never injured. Because there's always still the part of you that is completely whole. Sometimes you can feel fragmented, and so you have a loss of the experience of being whole. Sometimes you feel like it's all in front of you, and so you have the experience of not being able to see yourself or your wholeness. So again, all of them do, beautiful work at that deep inner truth level and taking us back to our wholeness. And even for me, it was like, what even is that? And is it possible for me to experience myself completely whole? Like, can I do that? And I don't know if I can really answer that. I think mostly I feel pretty whole. And if I look at it, then I get my logical brain in there to think, yeah, am I in my wholeness? I guess for me, one of the things that all of this work has done is really heightened my perceptions. And that's the other thing that Reiki energy does. Is it easily lifts our perceptions and our consciousness into that consciousness within us that remembers our wholeness, that knows that part of us. And so the energy itself, and one of the reasons that I decided to truly focus on this energy in all of my work and the way that I teach it, is because it has that automatic connection to it, the attunement. And so to go to the next part of your question, Patty, is can you do this for yourself? I still have sessions from other people. I just believe in that. I need self-care. Yes, I do a lot of self-Reiki. And one of the things with Reiki is that it does do this work without us having all the skill and training. Whereas for me, with soul retrieval, you really do need to have training and skill with that. With Reiki energy, because of the attunement, when we receive Reiki, share Reiki, or give it to ourselves, the Reiki energy is always what we're working with, and it's always coming in at that higher level. And so it doesn't really require the same level of training for it to do what it does. At the same time, I don't want to indicate there's no reason to develop skills. Being skilled is there's always that part of it. But the Reiki energy does this work at these deep levels, whether we know why it's doing it, how it's doing it or not. We can truly, work with the Reiki energy and just get out of the way, let it do the work that it does, and it does do it. So the other thing that happens as we get continued training, or maybe the next level, is it amplifies it and entrains it in us so that we have even a greater capacity. At the same time, a Reiki 1 person can have, incredible results as much as a very advanced Reiki person. So, and, I've seen people able to give Reiki to another person immediately after their first training and have just amazing things happen. So it works both ways. And so I hope that answers that. I think that it's one of those, I get quite a few questions about it in that comparison of soul retrieval. So I'm going to summarize everything that I just said. Soul retrieval, the term soul retrieval is an actual shamanic technique, working with specific energies to accomplish, and spirit guides to accomplish that technique. And the technique is based on the idea that the shaman or the practitioner and the spirit guide can go find the fragmented pieces of the soul that have broken off of a person because of trauma, and those fragments can go into other dimensions. And the spirit guide then commonly brings that back to the shaman, and then the shaman is able to bring it back and actually blow it into the person. So it's there's just so many techniques out there, and more than anything, people will find the ones they're drawn to, both as a client and as a potential practitioner. And so do I recommend any of the above techniques? Yes. Soul retrieval, I do feel it's important to go to people with training in that, that are specifically skilled in it. But anyway, long answer to your question, Patty, and I'm glad. And however people wrap around it, like and how that feels for you, I'm not trying to change your experience of what that felt like for you, because it's still bringing that piece back to you and revealing your wholeness to you. And that's the bottom line of any of it, so however that works, for me is still sometimes just in the mystery category and not always explainable, through like the idea of, oh, this is the technique and this is the energy. And it's, I think it was Distance Reiki Share a couple weeks ago when we started talking about miracles and identifying those, like those ones that sometimes We don't really give them quite that miracle status, but they really are. So,
yeah. And as a practitioner, I can feel comfortable allowing the Reiki energy, no matter what I'm thinking about whether they need it or not, the Reiki energy can reveal that wholeness and sort of work on that as Reiki does whatever it does too, right?
yes.
Like,
Yeah.
okay.
It's, like that's the part of our next step training classes is to, develop the skills to be able to observe what Reiki is doing. But
Yeah.
just because I can observe what it's doing, I'm not making it happen.
Not at all.
I'm only observing it. It's teaching me. It shows me this is how this is working. I'm not directing it. And that's another difference in the two techniques, is that with Reiki, we're really not directing it. But it is, there's a whole level of understanding that comes with the observation of it. But it's not, the energy and the healing a person receives is not dependent on the practitioner's ability to observe. At the same time, as a practitioner, that's the question I ask. Show me how you're doing this. And I still ask that in all the sessions, but that was particularly the very first year I started working with it in this way, like, okay, I want this energy to show me what it's doing and how it's doing it. And it was such a huge transition because I had spent 16 years practicing the way I had practiced. And so, it was also, aside from being challenging, it was so fascinating to ask the question, how are you doing this? Show me what this is. And then, because I knew I would be teaching it, then how do I explain it? And how do we teach it? And how do we learn this and develop skill? Because the other piece of it, we have these capabilities and they are being remembered, I think, at this time in our cultural history. That we're coming back to the awareness of the whole body healing. I am definitely an advocate of Reiki being a complementary therapy, and I absolutely use Western medicine. I use Chinese medicine, naturopathy, all of the above, acupuncture. I work with all the different modalities, and also know that the spiritual healing level is the piece coming back into our cultural awareness of the necessity, because energy healing is regardless of what a person calls it, we can have injuries to our energy that can be healed. It's like, what heals a broken heart? How do you get to the energy of that, of the challenge that happened? What heals being stabbed in the back? What heals unhealthy words spoken to you? What heals those things? And then what empowers, because that's the other piece of it all, is that Reiki absolutely empowers those gifts and talents. And that's what was in the invocation, was really coming in to strongly receive that Reiki energy. And it's like the way it shows up for me, and this is metaphorical, but the way it shows up for me is all these, just like my cells just lighting up with the epigenetics of it, the genes of it, like waking up with that innate knowledge, inner truth, inner ability, inner wisdom, inner knowing, inner awareness. So, all right, I think I feel complete.
Okay, Meg, you're up next.
I just wanted to know, like, when I was growing up, I was abused, and I believe like my parents were like they were sort of. I'm not trying to say, like there was a lot of evilness, and when I learned Reiki one, I got sober, and the lady that taught me all these bad things happened to her afterwards, and I sort of feel responsible about that, but I also wanted to say that I've been doing Reiki now for 7 years, and each year my recovery I do on another level. So right now I'm a Sui master teacher and Holy Fire too. And I do IET, and I just started doing toning a couple months ago. And I do Tony and everything with Reiki, and I feel like all this negative energy has come out of me, and I feel I'm getting whole, and I feel like it's taken 7 years of all this to get whole. In Reiki, Hisui said we must heal ourselves before we heal others. That's what I thought I read one time, and so I guess my question is, was I responsible because I was the next day I was sober, and she all these horrible things happened to her after she taught me, and now she's not talking to me anymore, but she did teach me a silly master teacher. That's what I have to ask you.
Thank you, Meg. It's hard to know because I wasn't there. And unless we really went in depth to go and observe it, I would say that, my initial thought with it is that Reiki energy does not absorb other people's stuff. So I would think there was something already occurring, and coincidentally, you took that training at that time. So I'll explain it a little bit in my own path. I I received my Reiki attunements because I had been in, I'm going to make it short. I'd been in shamanic training for 3 years. We were raising our kids on a small farm in Oregon and had horses. And my lifetime dream horse became lame. His leg got injured and he became lame. So I did all of the different things to try to heal him and everything. And after it was apparent that it would be a permanent lameness, I asked him what happened. And he showed me putting my hands on him and said, I went lame to deliver you to your power to heal. So I understood it to be Reiki, and I didn't believe in Reiki because to me, anything that I needed to be hard work. And I had such a strong belief in that I knew Reiki was given to me. And I was like, I don't know. So anyway, I procrastinated. And about 8 months later, a psychic came into my place of business and said she had a message for me from my horse. I did not know her. I knew of her. I had seen her around, but we hadn't had conversations. So she said she had a message from my horse and said that he told her to tell me that he had been telling me to do something and I hadn't done it. And I needed to do what he was telling me because life was coming and I was going to need it. Still gives me chills. So I got my Reiki attunements. And within 2 weeks after that, and 2 weeks after that, I ended up in a period of 2.5 years of death and dying. And people died, animals died, my father died, my aunts died. I mean, it was just almost like one after another. And it was this tremendous time for me to kind of go deeply into the experience of what does this all mean, and what do I believe now, and how is this working, and this deep understanding. And I was so grateful that I had Reiki to go through that process. But it didn't happen because I received Reiki. I had Reiki energy to assist me in managing it. And I see that at all different times in life, challenges is that we're all subject to them. And how do we manage them? What helps us, move through into a higher level of perception so we can solve things and move through them in a good way and the easiest way possible. And so for me, Reiki was what really helped me go through that period, and other cycles that I've been in that have been extraordinarily challenging. So I hope, didn't mean to turn it into my story, but that's more of what I would think is that, the person, you just happened to be receiving Reiki at that time, and the following things would just never have been about you, that it happened because of you. I have been doing this for 25 years now. And between all of the practices that I've done, the people I've taught, talking in the thousands, and I have never once thought that either I picked up something that caused life events to happen from it, or that I caused it from it. And so I can only give it from my experience, and I never want to downplay someone else's experience. That's not my place. That's why I say I can't really know. But in my experience, and I'm very experienced and have not seen that happen. People have their
Thank you.
life
But I
cycles.
also wanted to say, I feel like I've gotten rid of so much psychic garbage in the last 7 years. I don't know if that's my imagination or what, but I feel like I went through, I was a dumping ground for people with psychic garbage, and that's all I gotta say. Is it true that we can
Yeah.
get psychic garbage? And Reiki and all these other things that I do, I feel like I'm coming out of it.
I'm so glad for you, Megan. Absolutely. And here's another piece of how the Reiki energy does this work. So I'm going to go ahead and use what you just said as an example. And this is another understanding of specifically how this energy works, and not necessarily to compare it to others, but understanding that there are different techniques that do something like remove psychic garbage. So the way this energy does that is what is removed from you, first of all, can be done for you without efforting with it. Although I know 7 years is effort, but those energies can be lifted from you. The cords, the connectors, the attachments can be released. And the key piece is that it is operating on that authority of compassion, the authority of love, and it will be healed also. Because what you let go of, what is released from you, goes into a higher frequency, and it is actually healed also. And the burden of you having to be the one to do the healing gets lifted from you, and it goes all the way back to the original cause. So now the energy is not just lifted from you, but the energy, excuse me, the energy transforms. And so as it transforms, it no longer exists in that field of frequency of psychic garbage or whatever caused that. And so it does that for you, and it has that authority because, going back to what I said earlier, you have the divine right to be whole. And these things have no right to have power over you. It is your right to be sovereign in your body, your human nature, your human spirit, right here in the wholeness with your divine nature and divine spirit, living your life today. And so, yes, it does release and it is healed. And there's authority behind that. Compassion, I used to think compassion meant I just accepted everything. Like compassion's like, no, it just means you're not going to allow it to have power over you anymore. And when I want to even take those words back, because it's not necessarily about me allowing it. Sometimes we do just, have to go through that process of healing and then the empowerment. I do want to say one more thing with the belief about we have to be healed in order to heal others. To a degree, yes, so that we're healthy enough to be mindful and, with integrity and things like that. But truly, if we all waited to be healed until we did any other work on others, I can't say I'm all healed yet. So I don't know. I think it'd be a problem to have people doing the work. So I think there's a lot to be said with community where there's an understanding of some of these things that we can, talk about and share places like this.
Thank you. And I just also want to say that I feel like I'm starting to be part of the group now after 4 years of doing Reiki, and that's all I got. I'll shut up.
Thanks, Meg. Well, we're very glad you're here and so glad to just hear just that wellness in your life and that wholeness revealing for you. Thank you for sharing.
Okay. We do have a question from Kaz. She had to step away for a second, so I'm going to go to one of our email questions. From Surrender.
Adriana is here.
Oh.
I don't know if you just saw her.
Okay, Adriana.
Hi, I had a question about Reiki grids. Are we able to reset them? So I had created one back around the holidays during Thanksgiving. Family wanted peace and harmony. And now, as I'm entering a new cycle of life, I'm wanting to reset that. So could you speak to, resetting a grid, the intention?
Absolutely. It's so interesting because I love how this always works. Because I was thinking, oh, I should put my camera in for my grid and then didn't do it. So I'm doing it right now. And I'll screen share it. But also, there's a couple places. So let me explain for anybody not watching what we're talking about is the crystal grids that we imbue with Reiki and intention for continual distance Reiki to ourselves, to our homes, to, as Adriana was saying, that it was, to family and for peace and harmony in the holidays, and now resetting, because what happens is we actually go through steps to imbue the crystals with Reiki energy and intention. So now to reset them, they already have the Reiki energy. So now they need the intention reset, right? So what I would do with that is there's usually 5 steps that I work with. And so you have the first step is clearing. power symbol, CKR is a great symbol for that, or any of the ones you work with. Any of the master symbols too, any of the symbols really. And so if you're clearing it, you're not necessarily clearing it with all the Reiki energy. You're just clearing it with any kind of things that don't belong there from where you are today, right? So that's what I would be thinking more of, like, just release the things that are ready to, they're not relevant today. We're ready to let them go. And then the next step is to say thank you. And so we say thank you to the grid itself, to the crystals, to the earth, to Reiki, just being in that moment of thanksgiving and gratitude for even having a technique, like this. Hold on. So even having a technique like this available to us and the crystals, because what happens too is you end up in a relationship with them. You get to be where they're like, oh, hi, there you are, and talking to them. So, some of this can be short, it can be long, however you decide. Then the third step is to imbue them. So now you can place that Reiki energy in and go ahead and think about your intention, because that's the fourth step. And with that Reiki energy, setting in that new intention for what you would like with the grid, how the Reiki energy is engaging with you and, the world around you, and what you are inviting it to do. And then the fifth step is to seal it. So now you're going to seal it. And then the next time you want to either just charge it, you can use the master crystal to charge it, or you can put your hands over it, or you can think it, or I often chant to it. I'll chant the symbols over it, or I'll say somebody's name, or do, the different things that I would like to be engaged with. Because I teach, I always put all my students' names on the grid, before and during the class and after the class. And so you just seal it. And those 5 steps are in, I'll go ahead and, I better see what I have on my screen before I say I'll screen share. I will screen share where you can find it. But for those of you not watching this, but you're listening to it, if you go to our website, reikilifestyle.com, and you go to the Reiki library and go to the Reiki articles, then all the way down, about halfway down, is an article called Imbue Your Sacred Items with Reiki. There it is. And when you click on the article, go to the download the whole thing. And then there's a page in the article. So here's different things that you would use, like I've imbued Reiki into them. And then here is actually the 5 steps that I just described to you. Clear the object, say thank you, imbue the object with Reiki, place the intentions, and then seal the object. And you can do any of those 5 steps with any symbols. You can draw them, you can hold them, you can beam them. You could do more than one at a time, like you could do the whole grid at once, or you could do one crystal at a time. You can use your breath, you could use your eyes, you can sing to them, chant to them. You could do it quickly, you can take a long time, or both, all of the above. And so those 5 steps are here. So how you do the 5 steps is, up to you and how you feel guided. And of course, all of it is how you feel guided. So follow your guidance. But these are the 5 steps I use. Clear the object, say thank you, imbue the object with Reiki, place the intention, seal Reiki into the object. And then one more thing I should mention, to know more about these grids, you can go to reiki.org. That is the International Center for Reiki Training website, and type in crystal grid, and it'll take you to pages of information about the grid, and also photos of the peace grids that this grid is designed after, that William Rand placed around the world for people to meditate with for peace. And your grid, even if you are imbuing it for a certain purpose, it still works with that intention of joining together with the grids around the world, working together for peace.
Thank you.
Does that help, Adriana? Did I say your name correctly? I should have asked.
It's Adriana. But
Adriana. I heard that halfway through. I thought, wait a minute, this is Adriana. And so thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. I have a question here from Ani. Can a beginning Reiki practitioner use invocations, such as the ones offered so generously on your website, with clients in a healing session? Or do they have to be our own?
Yes. So what Ani is talking about, again, in that same place that I just screen shared, if you go to reikilifestyle.com, go to the Reiki library, and then scroll down past the articles, and there's a tab that says free downloads, and we have an invocation booklet in it. And that's what she's talking about, where we've listed all the different invocations and prayers that we use, not all of them, but some of them that we use that are there for you to use. You can, there are free downloads, so you can change them, you can use them. Yes, if you're Reiki 1, you can use them. The main thing that you'll see in them is we have the abbreviations of the names of the symbols in front of some of the lines of the prayer. So we just have like CKR for the power symbol, and SHK for the mental, emotional, and so forth. And so if I am in a group where I don't know the level of their attunements, then I don't say the names of the symbols out loud or even the abbreviations. I just use the kind of the name of the energy that I associate with those symbols and with those energies. But if I know the level of attunement in the group that I'm working with, then I do go ahead and say the names of the symbols. So that's the only caveat that I would say. But other than that, absolutely, you are welcome to use them. You guys can change them. You can kind of get the feel of them and think, well, I would say this a little bit differently, put your language in, or you could even read it word for word. So, however, when I first started learning how to do these, and I had to actually read other people's work first, then start to infuse it with my own languaging, then switching a little bit more and a little bit more. And I always read it from, like, I wrote it down on a piece of paper and I read it because I just didn't have that voice, and I was so intimidated and about doing it all out loud. So I just would read it, and then eventually that shifted. But I'll tell you, it was quite a few years. Even at the very beginning, goes back to CDs. I used to play other people's meditations and CDs for my classes and stuff instead of even reading my own. So speaking of invisibility, that shyness.
Okay, and Kaz is back. So Kaz, you can ask your question.
Let me find it. We have all these different energies. Okay. We got the Reiki energy, energy of the Holy Spirit, God energy, angel energy, spiritual energy. Are they the same or are they different? And do you know what they feel like?
Well, this is where this is your unique experience. And how you define the energies is going to be unique also. So let's say we're both thinking about angels. I may still have a different point of view or experience or, inner way of thinking about angels than you have. And both of us, it's true for both of us. So in my own belief and my own experience, so let me clarify that this is my experience, is that there are many different energies and there are many different modalities and techniques for us as human beings to connect with them. But mainly they are to remember them because they've always existed. We've always known, humanity has always known how to access them. And, some people are going to be more interested and have kind of a natural aptitude for that, just like another person has a natural aptitude for music or piano or science. So all of our perceptions and things work individually. So in my own experience, yes, they are different. So for instance, if I am in, my training early on was in fairy doctoring, so Celtic shamanism. And being Celtic myself, I have a lot of memory with that. It's an innate memory. But I did actually go and get that training with Tom Cowan, a Celtic shaman, and went to Ireland, took fairy doctoring, etc. So I've also worked with spiritual guides from other areas in the world and other traditions. So accessing those. So for instance, I've been very fortunate to be able to participate in Lakota Sioux ceremonies. And the energies that we work with there are very different than the energies that when I'm in the fairy realms. Those are the ancestor realms. And so even though, again, it's not hierarchical or better than, they are just different engagements with different energies. In my own experience of it is that we have the individuation of these energies. And then as we go up into higher levels of spiritual energy, then they become more united, where they aren't that specific. This one is this one, this one is this one. The individuation of them is also part of a human construct to understand them, but they are still in those higher realms of consciousness and spiritual existence. When I go out, for instance, in the 12 Heavens class, that we are exploring those dimensions and discovering what they are and what's in them and what do they mean, and consciousness levels, the higher I go, the more there are not the same, like they're more, one light rather than the individuation. So mostly the techniques that I have experienced are giving us access to the different realms that we're doing the work with, and the different techniques and the different spiritual realms and the different spiritual beings do the work differently. So that's a spiritual being context of it, spiritual dimensions. There's also the whole universal belief system around it, the biofield belief, the science belief of the frequencies and the electromagnetic fields that exist, and that it can be explained that way as well. Consciousness can be explained differently than spirituality or God or Holy Spirit. And sacred geometry, for instance, people are experiencing different modalities through things like human design, or, that's where we have all the differences even in the religions. So to me, it all comes down to there are 8 billion people on the planet and 8 billion realities and 8 billion beliefs. Even if we agree in certain beliefs, we still have individual perceptions of those and individual experiences of them. And when I say 8 billion people, that's just the realities of people. That's, everything else has its own reality too. So what I feel Reiki does, and the energy specifically is doing, is helping us to get into that sovereignty, that wholeness, and that inner truth, and to trust our own experience of that truth and our own authority around that truth. So, for instance, in the case of speaking of the differences, both you and I are talking about angels. Well, I don't know the entirety of the truth of angels. I just have my own experience. And I think that, you and I might have a discussion where we would have a lot of commonalities, and then we would both have different experiences too. And so I think that's what Reiki is doing, is teaching us how to honor each other's experience and inner truth as well, and trying to move us out of the differences that we experience. And at the same time, recognizing that, yeah, there are differences. When I'm in the fairy realms, I'm not in the Lakota ancestor realms, and vice versa. When I'm in, either of those realms, I'm in a different realm altogether than, when I was in Nepal and working in Nepal in those spiritual realms. So they're all different. Kuan Yin, who I have right here, was teaching me about it one day when I was asking a similar question, and she was saying that she said the best way she could explain it in a way I could understand is that it's like we have different neighborhoods and we can go visit all the different neighborhoods, but because human consciousness is not really good at bilocating, we're typically going to be in this neighborhood, then we might be in this neighborhood. Maybe the neighborhoods get together and there's a great big gathering, but there's still some differences and there's different neighborhoods. So do I know if that's just her way of explaining it to me or me wrapping around it? I don't know, but I like it. So.
Yeah, I like that one too. So for me to distinguish between or among the energies that are being known to me, I should ask them, which one are you?
Sure.
Like really, get to the nitty gritty with this.
Yeah.
Because, I work with the all of the Reiki symbols, and it's like some I could feel differences, some not. But I'm doing this A Course in Miracles now, and that's bringing up like Robyn said, these are all these questions that I had as a kid.
Good.
But yeah, it's like, where does this come from? All these, come on already, give me a break. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Kaz, I think to me, the main thing that you said is it's bringing up the questions you have. If you don't have the questions to ask, then how do you get to study
There's
it?
No growth. There's no growth.
You know already with you've spent your lifetime loving the study of spirituality.
Forever, yeah.
Your whole life. So it really just comes down to, not everybody finds the subject interesting. those of us in these communities, it's like, we're
We
like
devour it.
more people who want to talk about it. Let's all get together and talk.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well, see, now the benefit with Reiki and the questions and the next step, it gives me the language to the thought or the feeling. Because I'd be like, what is this? But then it's like, oh, look at that.
Well,
I could get it.
I definitely did not have the belief system that to start with that I have now. I mean, when I went and studied fairy doctoring, I was very aware of like, all right, I'm going to Ireland and I'm going to do a whole thing about fairies, and then I'm going to study for, a length of time with fairy doctoring and what. And so, it was definitely not within my belief system, but I wanted to have it in my belief system. And so,
Right.
of course, now in my belief system, it's such a cellular memory. When I got there, it was like, oh, but I didn't go there. Obviously, something inside made me need to, want to follow that choice. But I certainly didn't have the belief systems then that I have now.
Right. Yeah, my grandmother used to tell me that there's no such thing as fairies and leprechauns. And I'm like, when I'm a kid, like 4, 5, 7, I'm hearing this stuff on TV. And I'm saying, yeah, but everybody else says there's fairies over there. No, don't, I guess it was the RC stuff, But, yeah, but you talking about this stuff, I'm like, yeah, I was right all along when I was little.
Right. Bringing back to it, what we knew as kids.
Yeah, but yeah, and then we were shut up about it. What's that other word? We were
Suppressed.
Yeah. It's like I used to have crazy questions as a kid, and my mother, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, in fact, that's what I mean by we are returning and restoring this knowledge and making it more normalized and mainstream. And I am completely aware of how I sound talking about the things the way that I do. I know there's the people that are going to roll their eyes or just like, whoa, okay.
No, I think it's normal.
And yeah, exactly. And on the other hand, it's like, well, it's just normalizing it. And to me, it's what I can do today is I really completely believe in these abilities as part of our natural human intellect. It's a brain function. And how do we access it? It's part of our human nature. And I have a theory about what you're talking about, Kaz, with our parents and grandmothers telling us, don't say those things. That's not real. Well, that was practical. That was a parent's responsibility because in my day, the culture, and my parents would, they didn't really suppress it, but they also kind of laughed about it. So it was always okay, except it wasn't taught. It was just more like, oh, isn't that cute type of a thing. And so I didn't have the same, like, don't do that or don't say that. But, it was practical in those days.
Right. Yeah, they knew what they knew back then.
Yeah, don't be saying that kind of weird stuff. It's like, and
they always
in their
generation, knew I was
weird. Yeah, in their generation, it could be serious. Don't say that. So, some of it is, I just think we're coming back to the freedom now to go to our inner truth. And this is an intellect. We have instincts, we have intuition, we have insight, we have inner awareness, inner truth, inner authority, and all of that. I think that's this big change with Pluto moving into Aquarius.
Right. And I'm reading this book on Audible. It's by Dolores Cannon, and she's a
yeah.
regressive hypnotist.
Mhm.
And the things that she regressed this person back to Qumran, and what this person is saying about what we really are supposed to be doing. And I'm like, boy, did I write that stuff up wrong, you know? But
Yeah.
it's, I don't know, Colleen, everything is blowing my mind these days. It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Well, isn't that just the fun of it?
I know, right? It's like, oh
I
no,
say, it's
now
like,
what?
I don't need what I think or believe to be what anybody else thinks or believe. I just like it. And I
Yeah.
am very aware that I don't know that if, like, I don't know the ultimate reality of the universe and creation.
Well,
or
not yet
being
anyway.
human. It's like, well, if I'm going to live in this world, I'm doing it with this brain, this belief system.
Right. That's right.
And
I think,
I have lots of experience to validate.
and I think that with all this knowledge and learning and experimenting, I think somehow the spiritual part of the brain like gets hotter or something.
Yeah, it expands.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love.
Someday
Thanks, Colleen.
someday it'll get studied.
Yeah, like when we say in Italian, and when, and when.
What is actually happening in my brain when I can be so dialed in on what is happening with another person? Like, what is that? That's it. I bet it has to light up in a part of my brain. And I know there are neuroscientists that would be able to answer that. So,
Yeah, but we
go
don't
ahead.
worry about that. Thanks, Colleen.
Yes. Go ahead, Danny.
I just wanted to add, it's kind of funny. Early this morning, a friend of mine called and was talking to me, and she goes, I can only tell you this because no one would understand me. She goes, but I'm reading this book, and there's this person, this channel called Abraham, and I'm like, Esther Hicks? She's like, oh my God, you know it? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I just couldn't tell anybody this because it's just like, being in vibration and all these words. I'm like, well, you can always talk to me about that. And she just like, I'm so glad. So I think also just opening that, that energy to other people. And that's why we love our groups. But it was just so funny to me. And then she goes, have you heard of chat? It's GPT. Or she's like, so it's just really fun. It's for people to be on their journey and just learning and being and listening.
And well, again, I think that's why we love these kinds of gatherings here, in this podcast Q&A and the podcast and just in general, and our distance Reiki shares and classes and stuff, that it's all normalized here. And even though we may chuckle about it or whatever, we also know how very real it is. And I'm so glad to get to live with an expanded version of reality where the trees do talk. And I don't think Lynn is here, but she was talking over the weekend about how she was walking down the street and all the little flowers that had just popped up at the beginning of spring stopped her and said hi. And I thought, so we are all now, the whole group in the class, we're all like, yeah, we're going to go out and just speak to the flowers and let them say hi and welcome the spring coming in. And for those of you in the southern parts of the world, you'll be seeing the trees changing their leaves and the energy changing that way.
Okay. I don't see any questions here, so I'm going to go into your emails. Becky, how long should you practice on clients before you start teaching them Reiki?
Say that again.
How long should you practice on clients before you start teaching them Reiki?
You know, it's so variable. Again, for some people, they're going to feel they need to have a lot of practice and to feel confident. And I have seen other people ready to practice right away or to teach right away. There's definitely, you know, the value in experiencing Reiki and what you're doing before you teach it. Also understanding that the attunement is what gives your students the Reiki energy. The training is what you are doing as the teacher. So the attunement connects the person to the energy. And so there would be perhaps even the, how is that working with the particular students that you're working with? And, you know, is it like, boy, they need Reiki right away. I have it. I can teach them right away. And then, you know, it takes time to become more professional with it if you're going to be professional. And at the same time, in my classes, I always just teach people to just start. And realistically, you know, you're going to start with teaching somebody, and you're going to have maybe one person or two people that you'll start teaching with, and you're gaining experience both ways. I know I started all my teaching with family. That gave me experience, and I was very compelled to teach pretty quickly. I also taught with another person to start with that was experienced, and so that helped. But then that didn't really work out for me with that particular teacher. There was a pretty big mismatch in that, in the energy of the ways that we would both think about things. So I I think I probably started teaching, but again, you know, it was people close to me, things like that. It took a while to be professional. So I guess more than anything, I want to make sure that we're not establishing a rule around it. You know, sometimes like when a question like that is asked and I say it, then, you know, it could establish a rule. And there's not really rules. There's really like, you know, staying in that state of kind of where you're at with it and why and how. And also I have had people ready to feel like they're ready to go quickly. They may even have other experience that leads them to that ability. So I think I want to leave it open without saying something that creates a rule around it. Okay.
How many students can you have in one session? Does it need to be one person at a time, or can it be multiple?
So I think what student to me indicates a class, client is a session. So I'm going to answer both. Your clients, you can definitely, I have absolutely done like couples Reiki, where I've had people on tables side by side and one hand on each. I would be in the middle and one hand on each. Also, I would say some of the Reiki shares that we've had definitely would be multiple clients being healed at once. And also some of the ways that we do things, I think, reach multiple people. So again, I think more than anything, there isn't a rule around it. Listen to the energy of Reiki, listen to the people that are attending. And I'm going to also qualify this, and the answer I gave previously is that you could get different answers to those questions from different people. So some people might be more specific, like you need to have done this many months of practice before you would teach anybody, or you would have to have one person at a time in a session, or you can have 3 people to start in a class. But for me, I just haven't found it to work like that. For me, it's open-ended to the possibilities that we may need. And so let's say I'm working in a situation where well, okay, we can go back to a historical basis with that, with Yusui. So during the Great Kanto earthquake, it was said that he was giving Reiki to 6 people at a time, one with his eyes, one with his breath, one with each hand, and one with each foot. And he was working, 140,000 people died in that earthquake, and he was working tirelessly. So I think there's also, different circumstances, and for you to ask the Reiki energy how to do certain things.
Okay. Let's see if anybody
Danny,
here.
There isn't any questions.
We do have a couple.
Okay.
Tracy asked, are there any devices that you know of that can measure the Reiki energy?
Probably different people could answer that differently. Not that I'm aware of that is, it would depend on who is looking at the results. So, if you showed me a device that measures it, I'm probably more likely to, accept that device. If it's under scientific review or purview, it might have a different level of standard. So an example of that would be when we were doing the volunteering in the oncology clinics, and we had the intake form from 1 to 10, what is your pain level? 1 to 10, what is your stress level? And then at the end of the session, maybe 20 minutes later, asking them that question again, the answers repeatedly showed an incredible decrease in both pain and in stress levels. However, and so we compiled that information, and it was significant. Like on one of them, it was 93% change, like a dramatic change from maybe an 8 down to a 2, and another one was 83% change and dramatic like that. So for me, that was the evidence I needed. And of course, the experience that I have with people and the results that I have. At the same time, that would not, now that did work within the clinic with the staff, with the doctors, they understood the difference. But as far as it being a study of evidence that, say, the NIH would accept, it didn't meet those standards. So I guess it would depend on the standards you're expecting to meet. And I don't know of any of them, so except the results.
I can add to that. I volunteered at various cancer clinics, and we filled out those forms as well. And not only was it great for the doctors, it was really nice for the nurses to see. And so when I would come and volunteer, they would actually call me over, like if they were doing infusions or something and they needed some help with anything. And so it was kind of like a great ally with the nurses, because they also would see like, oh my gosh, the patient, feels so much better, so much more relaxed. And so that was a great evidence for me as well. And then Tracy did say, she said, I know EMF readers can also read that.
Yes. Well, and then Sheila asked if there's a specific blessing we can offer at a wedding. It's so interesting that you asked that, Sheila, because at this time of year, I think I've written a lot of information about officiating ceremonies and weddings. And I was just thinking, oh, we need to do some more of that, let everybody know where to find that. I have both articles on it. There's a couple of them that I really like, and it depends on the couple. You would ask them. And these are both in that same tab on ReikiLifestyle.com. Go to the Reiki library and the free downloads, and also the Reiki ceremony section. I think it's in the Reiki ceremony section. We have the blessing way ceremonies. And one of the ways that we do that is to have the guests all receive a bead at the beginning of the ceremony. And then during the blessing part of the ceremony, the words that someone is speaking to bless the marriage, the people all bless the beads. And then the beads are collected and given to the couple, and they string them together for their home. And there are different, for instance, with different couples that I've worked with, they may have something that they want to bless, that they are blessing during the ceremony, and that the beads then are strung too. So depending on their belief system, I have had one of the kind of centerpieces is what I would call it, was Ganesha. Another one was a cross. Another one was an Om symbol. Another one was a sun. So depending on the beliefs of the couples. The other one that we did that I really liked was the guests all received a crystal. And as they walked in, and then during the blessing, everyone blesses the crystal. Then those are collected and kept in a bowl. And those 5 steps that we did earlier, we would imbue that bowl with Reiki. In fact, that same article has this information in it too, imbuing sacred objects with Reiki. So then the bowl we would imbue also, and then the crystals are placed in the bowl for the couple for their home. And then one of the couples that we did that with, when she got pregnant, then for the baby shower, we had a blessing for the baby by all the people at the baby shower, and then a bowl specific for that baby, for that baby's room. So that was another fun one too. There are prayers actually written into those ceremonies. And then also, you can find your own blessing prayer that makes sense. Usually what I do with that is ask the couple what their belief system is. And so, for instance, I've had couples where they want to be blessed by nature more than God. I'll tell you what, that one, oh my gosh, as soon as we called in the blessings from the natural world around us, the wind came in, went right up to the bride, pulled her veil, and it was just went in this beautiful wave, and birds were flying. I was facing them, so I didn't see it. And the birds were flying behind me. I mean, it was so beautiful. And we have absolutely seen that in other ways. One day we got the thunderers that came in to bless that ceremony. So you can do that. And then also I've had people where it's a very specific religious blessing. And usually what I do in those cases is asking them the language they use in their prayers and how they want to be blessed. And so they may have specific spiritual beliefs. They may have specific beliefs, religious beliefs that you want to work with. Oh, I know a good one that I really like is to do the Thanksgiving address. And that's the one that you would be familiar with, where we say thank you to the earth, to the waters, to the life in the waters, to the plants and the trees, and go from the earth up into creator. And the way you could do that is, and the earth is here to bless you. The waters bless you. Bless this marriage. So lots of different things. So if you need more help, you can email me too. I am actually doing this right now with Danny's daughter. We are working on the same thing.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm going to be part of a wedding in our family. And although the couple are not particularly spiritual, it seems to me that the Thanksgiving one would be really quite appropriate. But yeah, I'll take a look through what is on Reiki Lifestyle, and I'll just maybe I'll email you.
Yeah. A couple other things I would say is, who is the officiant and how are you fitting into their ceremony? I've definitely, checked in with that, where I'm not the officiant for the entire ceremony, but I am part of it. So finding out what is a match. And here's another piece that I think about, and I encourage the couple to think about, is in that blessing, is there anything the people that attending need to hear? And so there are sometimes, I've officiated where one was Native American, the other was atheist. And she was like, "Don't you say God." And he said, "But I want Great Spirit." And so we were able to find compatible language that worked with them. I had another one that was, they were actually Catholic, but not having a Catholic mass, of course. And it was very, the language was more around Jesus Christ, our Lord, and inviting the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And afterwards, the bride's sister came up to me and said she was so glad to hear those words, that she knew then that the marriage was blessed. And so sometimes now another one, somebody may be like, "Well, I'm sorry, I don't want those words in my ceremony." So you find a way that it's a compromise, but if possible, even if it's just one line, if there's anybody, I had one wedding where the grandfather was a very active pastor. And I thought, it's important for that person to hear, some blessings with God. And so another one where, I've done them where they've been Seventh-day Adventist, and there's a specific language, also Self-Realization Fellowship, a specific language. And so some of that I actually would Google, like, okay, what's the language? One of them was Episcopalian, and actually asking, like, okay, so, how do they pray? What's the language they use? And then, of course, always needs to be the final decision of the couple.
I know that the bride, she lost her dad a couple of years ago, and really wants some way to include him in the ceremony as well. And so I will, I'll have those conversations with them.
Are you officiating the entire ceremony, or are you just doing a part of it?
No, I'm just doing a part.
Okay. So there's usually what is called an order of service. And that would be where the officiant for the whole ceremony is going through the order of service. And one part of that order of service is commonly when the couple is going to say something to their family members or their parents. And then often that's when the blessing of the people who have passed is brought in also. And then, so I would say it's probably going to be part of the whole ceremony. And then also, yes, to include that in a part of your blessing. And so, but typically in the order of service, there's going to be a place that is very specific to including the loved ones who have passed, if, again, the couple wants to do that.
Right, right. Well, thank you for that information. That's great. I'll do a little research, and I have a couple of months, so that's
I have
good.
quite a few articles on our website, both in the Reiki library in the article section. So that Imbue Your Sacred Objects with Reiki is a good article. And then I've written several of them about officiating ceremonies. So definitely go in and check out the articles. And then in the downloads, also in the ceremony section, in the Reiki library ceremony section, where there's some specific prayers. But you can also Google prayers. I have tons of books that, they used to all be books that we would get the information from, but now you can also Google that, blessings for, people. But I will tell you that one, the Thanksgiving address, can be really beautiful. And that was gifted to us by Chief Jake Swamp of the Haudenosaunee people, for us to be able to use these ways. It was a gift to the people.
That's
So
beautiful.
It's a beautiful way to share that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're
And
welcome.
thank you too, Danny, for the bit in the chat. I appreciate that.
Mhm. Oh, there we go. Good. Okay. Well, I think we're about ready to finish up.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and open the circle. For those of you listening later, we just do this because we have all come together in gathering, and in the invocation that we did, that I think will get added to this somewhere, the invocation that we did at the beginning, but I started it really quickly. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and open the circle now. So go ahead, and those of you that are able, you can just bring your hands together and take a moment to look inside and say thank you to you. We say thank you to each other again, because our community does make a difference. It does empower these higher frequencies of our human intelligence and intellect and our capabilities, gifts and talents, waking them up and revealing them within us. And we say thank you to the enlightened ones that join us in these Reiki energies. We are so thankful to have this assistance around us. And thank you again to the teachers who came before us and the descendants who come after. We are opening our hearts and receiving the gift of love and those beautiful blessings. Thank you. And so it is. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, those who are here and those who listen later.